Well, Create students Blake Poggio, as well as Tarek Barhume, Lucas Lafort, and Luke Tenorio produced a short video that we're going to hear a little bit about to start the show this morning. This is the latest in our special series of stories produced by these students. They're filmmaking students in the Create program at Sisler High School, in collaboration, as I mentioned, with CBC Manitoba. So this week, they introduce us to a thriving community of billiard players who share the love of the game with their love of their Filipino heritage. As it turns out, the game of pool is a big deal in the Philippines, and Filipino Manitobans here share that passion as well. Here's their story, starting with hearing from billiard player Marvin Kiambo.
The game of billiards is very important to the Filipino community. It's equivalent to hockey here in Canada. And just like here, kids play it at a really, really young age. You can play it until you're old. Everybody can play it. There's so many things to love about playing pool. The game is very intricate. To the average person watching the game of pool, it's just, somebody's holding a stick, they're hitting a cue ball, hitting a ball into a pocket. But there's a lot more than that. No two racks are ever the same. And also the fact that I can play it till the day I die, it's a game. As long as I can walk, as long as I can see, as long as I can move my back arm and stroke it, I'll be able to play pool. So those are the biggest reasons why I love to play.
Filipino billiards community is very important to me because I've been playing pool for 13 years, and whenever I play pool, I feel alive. I've been working in Canada for 7 years, and it feels like it's very stressful to work for 7 days. Whenever I see a lot of people playing pool, it kind of makes me forget about the stress.
I'm born here in Canada, so it's a little bit different for me, but there was already a small community of Filipino pool players who had immigrated here that kind of started, playing around, whether it's just for money or just for fun at Bourbon Street Billiards. I got to meet them, and the group got bigger from there.
So whenever I look around and see these people playing, I feel like it makes me, it inspires me to play more and to improve myself, because I see a lot of good players here. And this is not just, yes, we're having fun and playing pool, but this is also a profession. And we try to improve our abilities every single day.
The challenges faced early on is that a lot of stuff were mainly tournaments. And, just to try and get Filipinos and just even other pool players in general together, it was a little bit more difficult back in the day, but now with Facebook, social media, and it's a lot easier to tell a whole bunch of people that there's something going on in the pool community. It's a lot better and a lot easier nowadays. Well, an event to show that the Filipino community was really thriving is just as recent as this week. We ended up deciding to get a small all Filipino pool tournament together. And you know what? It wasn't very long to get people together. Within an hour, all 32 spots were filled. And I talked to the owners here at Crazy 8 Billiards and Lounge to see if they can get more tables. So they gave me more tables. So we expanded the tournament to 40 players. And within the next 30 minutes, the rest of the spots were taken. So that it's thriving when you're able to just put a post up for a tournament and everybody shows up and it's filled within an hour. So the pool community in general, not just the Filipino one, it's starting to get big again. So ever since COVID, I think it's finally getting back to where it was before.
No pressure. So the billiard players, Marvin Kiambo, as well as Ellison Brotinel and Duque Jr. The story produced by the students, Blake Poggio, as well as Tarek Barhume, Lucas Laforte, and Luke Tenorio, with support from CBC Manitoba. For more on the story, cbc.ca/Manitoba. We have a story about chronic pain. When you see someone who shows physical signs of battling a disease, or maybe they happen to be using a wheelchair and it's related to disease, you often will easily recognize that. But in the world of chronic pain and invisible illness, things like lupus, fibromyalgia, endometriosis, it's very different. Non-visible chronic conditions can be difficult to diagnose. Many women in particular go years not being believed. Advocates say the healthcare system needs to change around this. The Canadian Pain Task Force says a report released back back in 2021 provides the tools to help if more doctors were aware of it. So we're going to talk about it this morning. Maria Hudspeth is with us, Executive Director of Pain BC and Pain Canada and co-chair of the Canadian Pain Task Force. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy. Nice to be with you.
Thanks for being with us. Yes. Okay, I want to get right into the report. 2021, you offer the solutions in this report to help. What are the core recommendations here?
Well, there are 6 goals with about 150 recommendations underneath them. The goals can be summarized as improving access to pain care across the country, raising awareness and combating stigma, making sure health professionals are trained to assess and treat chronic pain, improving research and the infrastructure to get those breakthroughs around how to treat this wicked problem, and really addressing issues of equity. So we know that certain populations are disproportionately impacted by chronic pain, and we need to take their specific needs into consideration. So that's a very quick summary of the recommendations.
So let's dig into one of the populations, particularly, as I mentioned, women. Why is pain so difficult to diagnose and often ignored in women?
Well, we know that chronic pain itself has often been ignored. So we've understood historically pain as a symptom of something else. We now know that when pain lasts longer than 3 months, it can often be chronic primary chronic pain. So chronic pain that is a condition in and of itself. But that historical disbelief that pain is real layered on top of the kind of gender bias that women often experience, that creates a very potent combination. And often women's pain can be invisible. So it might be endometriosis, it might be other chronic conditions that women are disproportionately affected by. And we just see still to this day women being told, this is in your head, this is due to emotional problems, this is something where you're just seeking attention or you're just seeking drugs. And we know that for the vast majority of people, that is not true. Pain is real, and there are things that we can be doing to better treat it.
Things like what? You mentioned the 6 recommendations, but what do you do to treat it? Because part of the problem with chronic pain is it's very difficult to treat.
That is true, but we know that when pain becomes chronic, it often is pain that's being produced in the brain and nervous system. So that is the pain processing center in our body. And we know that when pain becomes chronic, it can become, it's almost like, if we use a computing analogy, it's almost like the difference between a problem with your computer hardware and your computer software. When it's a problem with your mouse, maybe your mouse is broken, your keyboard's broken, that's a problem that you can see and easily diagnose. But when it's a software problem, that's something that's running in the background, it's invisible, it doesn't show up on a scan. And that's often the case with chronic pain, where it's that software problem, the brain and the nervous system that's processing pain that's malfunctioning. So once we know that it's not a hardware problem, it's a software problem, we know that there are things that we can do. So these can be this can be medication, but it can also be things like psychological support, mindfulness, learning to calm the nervous system, occupational therapy, physical therapy, a whole range of treatments, even pain interventions. So injections and those types of treatments. There are things that we can do.
How does chronic pain affect the lives of people who live with it?
Imagine, Marcy, if you've ever had a headache, a toothache, an injury, and then imagine that persists. You're living with that day in and day out. You're not sleeping. You're becoming irritable. You're maybe having to pull back from all the things that you enjoy, going to the gym, going to your dance class, going out for coffee with a friend, even things like picking up your young child or caring for a loved one. all of these things become increasingly difficult. We know that sometimes people turn to alcohol or other substances to find relief. We know that people can become depressed and anxious when they're living with pain day in and day out. So this can become a spiral where it's affecting people's relationships, it's affecting their work, their ability to go to school, and just participate really in their own lives. So that's something we want to stop. We want to intervene early and get them the help that they need.
Just last, why do you think it continues to be, ignored or not acted upon? Obviously, this task force we're talking about, and the report came out 4 years ago, and here we are talking today about better awareness among, doctors and health professionals being a problem.
Yeah, that report came out at really the height of COVID. So we know that at that time it was very hard to get attention. It was very hard to move things forward in the healthcare system, but things are improving. So there are now 9 provinces moving forward on provincial pain strategies. There is actually a lot of progress happening in Manitoba with an expanded pain program in your province and a big investment from your provincial government in expanding pain care. So there's a lot that's being done. There's new courses to train health professionals. There are more peer support and those types of groups
Hmm.
showing up across the province. So lots of progress, but still more to be done.
Thank you very much for being with us, Maria.
I'm grateful to have the time to shine light on this important issue.
Maria Hudspeth with us this morning, Executive Director of Pain BC and Pain Canada and co-chair of the Canadian Pain Task Force. Well, after 3 years of negotiations, 62 Indigenous cultural items held by the Vatican for a century are one step closer to returning home. Representatives from the Assembly of First Nations, Inuit, Tapiriit, Kenatami, and Métis National Council welcomed the artifacts' arrival over the weekend on Saturday in Montreal. The welcoming included an opening prayer by Kitigat Zibi Elder, Claudette Commanda, as well as Inuit throat singing and a performance of the Red River Jig. The Canadian Museum of History is now going to unbox and examine the items and work in partnership with communities to repatriate them, get them back where they belong. Here's what Assembly of First Nations National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Nepanak had to say about the process.
This is an important and emotional moment for many First Nations across this country. And I hope it will also be an important moment for all Canadians to consider the history and the future of this country. It's so important that we begin to work together. I think we've come a long way and we have a long way to go. And reconciliation isn't one stop here. Reconciliation is every single day doing this work. I want to conclude today with a message thanks to His Holiness Pope Leo and the late Pope Francis. Like I said, when I'd met the late Pope, and it was such a time, and it was very emotional and very touching, but I'm so glad that he did the right thing and he didn't kick it down the road to another pope, that he's seen the significance of trying to right the wrongs of the past. As we were waiting this morning, one of the youth, of course, sent a video of the relatives being carefully loaded onto the plane, and it made me wonder, why was this so hard? To watch the boxes loaded onto the plane, it was so easy, so why not more? Why can't we bring more home? Thousands of our relatives are being held around the world. So I asked the Pope, I asked others around the world to help us to bring them home. Let's not wait, another 100 years. 2 years ago today on this date, I had the honor of being elected as National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations. We promised to honor the work. I commend the leadership, the First Nations in Assembly, who in 2017 instructed that the Assembly of First Nations work towards repatriating our artifacts around the world. And this is the beginning of that work. But we'd promised to work on that and to keep up the pressure to bring our relatives back home. So today is another important step, but it's far from the end. It's only the beginning.
Pretty special moments over the weekend as repatriation, step one, begins. After 3 years of negotiations, as mentioned, items, 62 of them, Indigenous cultural items held by the Vatican for nearly a century, are one step closer to returning home, with the first shipment coming to Montreal. We were listening to the Assembly of First Nations National Chief, Cindy Woodhouse-Nepanak, speaking Saturday in Montreal. We want to get an update, though, on how you did in terms of your generosity. Friday was CBC Manitoba's annual Charity Make This Season Kind event. Huge success. Music, stories, and of course, reaching out to see if you can support Harvest. Every year, CBC teams, in fact, all across Canada come together to raise money for food banks in their communities. So we had our full programming day dedicated to the roughly 60,000 people who rely on Harvest Manitoba to put food on the table in our province where we live every month. And of course, that supports the member agencies, 400 agencies all across the province. So once again, you ended up giving a record amount of money. Vince Barletta is president and CEO of Harvest Manitoba. He's back in live this morning for the final total and tally. Hi, Vince.
Hey, good morning, Marcy.
So what's the news? Where did everyone land? Where did we land?
Well, with the generosity of Manitobans, Marcy, including the donations that came in throughout the weekend, we have, I'm pleased to say, a brand new record total for Make the Season Kind with the matching funds, $516,940. That's about $14,000 more than we did last year, Marcy, a new record. And thank you and everybody here at CBC Manitoba. What a day, what a weekend.
Yeah, you know what? Thanks to the listeners and thanks to Manitobans. I have to say, other stations sometimes will set a goal, and we'll talk about trying to reach it. Here at CBC, we always just say whatever you can give, and we leave it at that. And I didn't think that this year, given the economic realities in this country, and you never want to set a target. So the fact that people were able to take this to another record level to help fellow Manitobans is really something.
Well, I think it speaks to the generosity that we have here in Manitoba. And, it takes a province to feed a province. No one does that better than we do in Manitoba. And it was great to be getting those calls in all day, donors that were matching funds, some donors, longtime donors, first-time donors, some great challenges to retired teachers and Rotarians, and I know they were coming through. So again, it was a fabulous day and a great day of programming in the afternoon with Faith as well, and the whole activation. So a big thanks to everybody here and all Manitobans.
And the matching ended up being a match to $250,000 by the end of the day. So just incredible that some of those families named, some of them are anonymous. Just really, really wonderful.
Yeah, well, that's right. We had some donors that prefer to be anonymous, and we had, as we did last year, 100,000 matched by Dave and Elena Forgan, a former Winnipeg family, and they're still in the food business and big supporters of Harvest, and we thank them for matching the funds in the afternoon. And, gifts, large and small, they all add up, and when we do that, we can do great things in Manitoba.
I was really touched, too, when we opened that first envelope. Came Thursday before the day even began. Someone came down to CBC here and dropped it off and just said, kickstart the day for Manitoba. And I just thought it was really special to, like you said, all donations big and small, really lovely. So where does the money go and how far does $1 go?
Well, so again, every dollar was matched, but the reality is every dollar that we raise that we're able to spend on food allows us to leverage another $10 worth of food through all of our purchasing arrangements, the food donations we're able to pick up, our partnerships with the agri-food industry. So really $1 turns into 10 at Harvest Manitoba, and that's a big part of the magic that lets us do the work that we do all across the province.
How are you going to spend it this year, Vince? Like, where are the biggest needs?
Well, the biggest needs, continue to be on food purchasing. Certainly, we spend millions in recent years, each year, purchasing food to supplement what goes in the kits. And then on top of that, of course, we got staff that like to get paid. We got trucks that need fuel. We have our building, which is always in need of repair and soon will be in need of some future expansion as well. So we have no shortage of needs at Harvest, including supporting our workforce training program, our Meals to Go school nutrition program, education, and the work that we do in research, like our Harvest Voices report that we talked about last week. So again, it all goes toward supporting all of those causes, and we can't do it without the support of Manitobans.
I want to ask you something as we're reaching the end of the year here. We started the year hearing about tariffs, like really that was the beginning of the year. And I remember at that time, you guys at Harvest were saying that tariffs could affect, I believe it was it baby formula? Like, how are you affected by tariffs? I'm just mindful we've had a whole year of this up and down.
Well, it up and down, I think, is the operative way to put it, Marcy. And, a lot of tariffs put on, tariffs taken off, and a lot of ups and downs. So we were concerned really at the outset about what it was actually going to do to some of the purchases of what we buy. As it turned out, products like baby formula, which we do buy and does come from the U.S., wasn't subject to tariff.
Okay,
which is a good thing. And when you think about it, why would you do that to families at the end of the day? So that's a good thing. So I think in terms of the purchasing, we missed the biggest impacts of the tariffs. ultimately. But, we're not through the woods yet, and we'll
Yeah.
see what comes of it.
And obviously, all of us, everyone affected by grocery prices and the economy. What would you like to say to donors who were able to help out this year, just before you go this morning?
Well, I just say a big thank you, and 60,000 Manitobans go into a food bank in a typical month, and as we talked about, broadly based seniors, families, people with kids, all over the province, Winnipeg, the suburbs, rural, the north, and I just have to say, if you and your family are doing all right, and you were able to make that gift, we thank you so much, and we can't do it without you. Thank you, Manitoba.
Thank you, Vince, for being in this morning with the update.
Thank you, Marcy.
Yeah, quite good news there, right? Excellent news. A record broken again, incredible. $516,940 with matching funds raised for Harvest Manitoba. So let's thank you, Corey. Corey popped up the names of the musicians here so I can thank everyone properly. Performing on our show, Winnipeg Philharmonic Choir members were here early. Jocelyn Gould, Juno Award winner, as well as Carl Kohut accompanying Jocelyn. Arnold J was in the house. Super fun in the morning. On noon, Bobby Dove performing. Beautiful. I heard a lot of that when I was finished the show. I was listening to noon. Up to Speed Boy Golden, Jade Turner, and Dominic Adam. Gorgeous performances as well. Remember, there was something extra this year. If you were at Zoo Lights and you dropped by the truck, you had Chef Mandel Hitzer of Deer and Allman, who was running that food truck at Zoo Lights, and that brought in additional funds for Harvest. So it was a nice afternoon if you're able to be out there. So thanks to everybody who made this possible. Top of the list is you donating, and then also to all the people here at CBC who worked so hard to make that happen through the day Friday. Well, next, let's go to something else that you might have been doing this weekend. Did you go out and get a tree, perhaps, for Christmas? I saw a lot of the trees on the top of the people's cars and vehicles they were driving around. For the past 46 years, the Winnipeg Y Service Club has been giving back every holiday season. The group sells trees with the funds going to help those in need. Now, that group includes students at the high school next door on Kimberley Avenue. So players from Miles MacDonnell Collegiate's football team volunteer every year at the tree lot. They say it's something they look forward to. CBC Manitoba's community reporter Shanley Vidal has a seasonal story. She was at the tree lot to find out more about the partnership.
This one here's probably got a little more weight to it, eh? It's a little bit bigger base.
Yep, no, that's a good one.
That's a nice one there, eh?
Absolutely. Yeah. My name is Brad McKay. I've been with the Winnipeg Y Service Club for 31 years. Well, this school is in my community. My kids went here. I'd always wanted to teach here. And so I spent 4 years teaching here. And Dan Washnick, the coach, he and I were in the same department, English department. And in 2011, he was talking about fundraising for the football team. And I said, hey, how about coming and selling Christmas trees for a weekend? I've had former students of mine from other schools that I've taught in come out here, and they just have a ball. They love the fire barrel. They love the trees. It's like Christmas arrives for them, as it does the day that our trees arrive for us. Christmas arrives. So it's that time of year.
Right now, there's multiple shifts where it's out of 3 people, 4 people are going. Everybody wants to do tree sales. It's so fun. I love making people smile while I volunteer and help them out with the trees. I like knowing that I'm helping out the football program doing this too. So let's say there's someone that's on the poor side. Football is more of an expensive sport. They can't afford everything and they want to play football. I think if you want to play football, you should be able to play football. And doing this could help people get discounts when they can't afford everything.
There's the idea that we want them to be leaders in the community, and leadership is sacrifice. The idea of giving back time, giving back effort, giving back energy. And this kind of generosity, have an opportunity to give back to the community, is such a valuable life skill that just translates on the field, which is kind of my primary focus for a couple months a year, but more importantly in their long-term lives, which is my focus every other month year as they move on and out of our program and into the community.
We give money for kids to rent musical instruments. We've bought running shoes for kids who can't afford them for phys ed classes. We give a $500 scholarship to 4 different high schools in the community. We have bought insulin pumps. When I give a check to a kid and you see that smile, that's enough. That's what binds you to what we do. So that's why I'm still here.
You can find the holiday tree lot next to Miles MacDonnell Collegiate on Kimberley Avenue. Shout out to the Buckeyes. We also heard the football coach there, Dan Washnick, grade 11 student Bryce Bruce, and Winnipeg Wise Service Club volunteer there, Bruce McKay. The clubs use the funds, as you were hearing there, in many ways. One of them is to remodel bathrooms and renovate the local YMYWCA. Thanks to CBC Manitoba community reporter Shanley Vidal and videographer Travis Golby for the story this morning. Well, armed with light meters and cameras and compasses, a group of volunteers are on a hunt to find dark skies. Now, that is not as easy as you might think. That quest is at the heart of Dark Skies. It's a new 44-minute documentary on CBC Gem.
What does it mean to be human? What is my place on this earth? What is my place in the universe?
Most people now in North America have never seen the Milky Way. That's tragic.
Light pollution is essentially the excess use of light that goes up into the sky when it's not necessary.
Of all the forms of pollution out there, light pollution is one of the simplest things to deal with.
The Dark Sky Preserve is an ecological designation which allows us to bring nature back to its natural forms.
My connection to the sky, it is spiritual and always has been.
New documentary about the pursuit of a new dark sky preserve here in Manitoba. Tyler Funk is the filmmaker behind the new 44-minute film, which can be seen, as I mentioned, on CBC Gem. And Tyler's in studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Sylvia Graca is here as well, one of the astronomers featured in the film, hoping to establish this second dark sky preserve in the province. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
The images in this, Tyler, I mean, they're beautiful. Our radio listeners couldn't see it unless they were watching on our YouTube stream, but the shots of the sky are gorgeous. How long have you guys been working on this?
Well, I started in 2024, I think, is when we first started filming.
Yeah.
In the spring.
All over the province?
Yeah, Spruce Woods was a big location further south, about an hour south of Winnipeg, kind of in the middle of nowhere out there. All over. Yeah.
And the reason you were there is because that's where the Dark Sky Preserve is existing. We should revisit this. I know it was mentioned in the clip, Sylvia, but what is a Dark Sky Preserve?
Well, a dark sky preserve is essentially a location that is going to be protected from light pollution. So it doesn't mean that, you're going to be in the middle of nowhere with no lights in the pitch dark. But what it means is that the area will be protected from unnecessary lights. So instead of having a light on that's really bright, it's going to be a dimmer type of light, a warmer hue. It's going to be turned off when it's not necessary. It's going to be shielded. So instead of a light shining up into the sky and all over the place, it's going to be shielded and shining towards the ground where it's needed. So that's what the dark sky preserves are.
And not ruining the view of the natural darkness, the sky, the stars. Tell us about the one in Spruce Woods Provincial Park that already exists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was a dark sky preserve that was established in 2022 with the of course, the park is the entity that requested the dark sky preserve. And so when they requested it, as volunteers with the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, we help them to, take inventory of what kind of infrastructure they have, so what kind of lights they had. And once we were able to help them, changing those lights to more compliant lighting, they were able to obtain this dark sky preserve out there.
It's about 190 square kilometers. It's for people that are trying to situate, where Spruce Woods here. Like it's Highway 201 between Stewartburn and Vida, and it's to the east. So I think that the northern boundary is not quite established. So this is about 1 hour south of Winnipeg. Is that right?
This is the
one
am
I describing the new one?
Yeah, that's the new one.
Okay. So that's what you guys are wanting to do. What does it entail to try to get that to happen then in that area?
So what we've done so far over the last few years is basically we go out there and we take an assessment of the location. So we measure what the light pollution is in the sky, how dark the skies are. We take photographs of the area. We also reach out to the public and we do presentations about light pollution. We take our telescopes out there. We show people the wonderful things that are in the sky. And Nature Conservancy already has a beautiful, pristine, dark sky out there. So it was just a matter of taking pictures of the whole area and establishing a baseline. So now that we know what the dark skies are like, we're going to protect those dark skies and try to maintain that baseline, or maybe even improve it as time goes by.
So Monday, Spruce Woods, and I'm describing south of Winnipeg like I've lived here my whole life. Tyler, we heard a bit of a film in the introduction. Of course, we heard a bit about your film. Why did you want to share this and tell this story?
Yeah. Well, I found out about dark sky preserves a couple of years ago. I didn't know what they were. I'd never heard of them before, and found out Spruce Woods was one of them, and there was only one in Manitoba. So it got me interested, and I wanted to find out how it became a dark sky preserve, who was behind it. And that's how I met Sylvia and a few other astronomers in the city that worked on helping Spruce Woods make it a dark sky preserve. And I'm always looking for reasons to get out in nature. I love filming outside of the city, out in nature. But also when I met Sylvia and her friends, Jerry and Tim, and I just thought these folks are awesome, and I need to get to know them and learn from them, learn their passion for the night sky.
What was one of the most beautiful nights that you could describe to us? What were you filming?
Well, one thing that always comes to mind is the first time I went out with Sylvia and Jerry to do the sky readings south of the city. It's about an hour south. It started getting darker and darker, and suddenly it's like, wow, it's very dark. And the sky just kind of opens up. It was a clear sky, a perfect night. But what I found interesting is when Jerry points out, looking towards the city, there's a glow. There's, and he's like, that's Winnipeg. And we're an hour drive away from the city, and we can still see the glow of Winnipeg. And it's not a very big city. And I just found that quite surprising.
Yeah, it's an illustrative example of the pollution we're talking about.
Yeah. And Jerry says it really nicely. He says that part of the sky is gone. So that's just an example of like how it can slowly disappear.
Less light or different types of light help with this? When you think about your different types of what can actually help to deter the glow, to make the sky darker?
Yeah, so Tyler just mentioned how you can see the glow of the city of Winnipeg way out from Nature Conservancy. And the reason for that, we got to give credit to the city of Winnipeg. A few years ago, they changed all of their light standards.
That's what I was asking, right? That's kind of the bar we have in the city to understand a little bit of this.
Yeah, so they have this full cutoff lighting. So earlier, we didn't have full cutoff, meaning that the light would even illuminate up into the sky, sideways, and all over the place.
It was worse.
It would scatter. But the fatal part that the city of Winnipeg did is that they did great in having the shields, but they chose such a hot type of light. It's so bright and so white that it scatters even more throughout the sky.
Oh, it's not better.
So
okay.
It ended up being worse, and that's because, in a way, it ended up being worse because white light scatters more easily than the reddish. Do you remember the old lights in Winnipeg used to be in an orangey, reddish glow? Yeah. So that didn't take away so much from the sky. But this sky, to see the stars, you need that contrastiness, the black sky with the bright stars.
So say you gather all of this data and you hear from the people in the area and there's a support for this, dark sky preserve. Does it get an official designation? How does it remain that way then?
Yeah, so basically the Nature Conservancy right now is gathering all of the data and all of the pictures to provide to the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, which is the body that will issue the designation for dark sky preserves. And once that designation is issued, that area will be protected from light pollution.
What does it mean to you to be part of the process, to having this happen for people here?
It means a lot to me because really light pollution is just so detrimental to the ecosystem, to wildlife, to humans. And there are numerous studies out there showing how it negatively impacts everything. But even a tragic thing that we hardly ever talk about is how 80% of people in North America never see the Milky Way. And it's such an amazing thing to look at a star, at a sky that's full of stars. You just can't help but ask those important questions, those deep questions of who are we, what are we? It makes us kinder people to see. And young people are not seeing their place in the universe because they don't get to see the stars at all.
It took 13 years to establish the Spruce Woods Provincial Park Dark Reserve. Do you have a sense at all about where you are in the process of having this happen south of Winnipeg?
I am very optimistic. I have a feeling that it's going to be done fairly quickly because right now they're like at the completion stages of the whole thing. They're getting feedback from the community, and so far the feedback is very positive.
I was going to ask about that as well. Yeah.
People are very positive about this, and they're really happy to have their areas being designated as a dark sky preserve. So it's just a matter of gathering that information, packaging it up, and sending it to the Royal Astronomical Society for analysis and hopefully approval.
This is a beautiful documentary. Thank you very much for being in and telling us about it, Tyler, and nice to meet you, Sylvia, as well.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you.
So Sylvia Graca, local astronomer helping to establish Manitoba's second dark sky preserve. Tyler Funk, the Winnipeg filmmaker behind Dark Skies. It's a 44-minute documentary, and if you want to watch it, it is free, and you can find it on CBC Gem right now. The province has found a new proposed location for Manitoba's first consumption site. The proposed location is now 366 Henry Avenue, so it's west of Main Street, it's north of Logan, and it comes after the NDP government backed off their initial proposal to put the site on Disraeli Street after local residents raised some concerns. So this is just a moment of Wab Kinew, our premier, saying Friday that this location was probably the best thing the province could do to balance the considerations of the community.
We found a location here that's close enough to where a lot of the other services are in the region, where there is a lot of need clearly in the community, but also it's maybe set back, we could say, from some of those other places where we know kids or families are going to be in the area.
So that's Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew. The consumption site will, to be clear, not supply drugs. It will allow people to inject drugs, and there will be staff on hand to respond to any overdose moment. Kinew says the facility is part of Manitoba's strategy for harm reduction. We did speak to a nearby business owner who has some concerns. Pampanga Restaurant and Banquet Hall is across the street from the proposed site on Henry. She says, her business has already been subject to some vandalism, to people soliciting, and car break-ins. So she's not only concerned about the effect that this site will have on her restaurant, she also says she's concerned how it could influence people at nearby Siloam Mission. Here's just a minute of what she said to CBC's Gavin Axelrod.
To be honest, I'm not really a fan of it, just because of where we're already located and what's around us. Just having that and what we have right now, I just don't think that would be a great mesh. And there's a school over there, like right across the building. And with the struggles that I already deal with day to day, I just don't think it would work.
You sort of know about a safe consumption site. What did you know before today?
Nothing. I knew nothing, and I don't know too much about it. So, yeah.
How much of a role do you think the government has to play in making sure the public is educated and actually knows what's going to be going on in that building?
100%. I think they should let everyone know and be very out there, just saying, hey, we're here to help, but also this is what's going to happen, and putting it in an area where it's it's central, but it's also so close to another location that people go to and resort to help. And then now you're adding people who are allowed to do that. Now they're let's just go there. That's not helping these people who are already maybe possibly struggling. It's just too close to that area.
So that is Kelly Miranda's perspective, manager of Pampanga Restaurant and Banquet Hall, across from the proposed supervised consumption site. The school she mentioned is Dufferin School. She said straight across. We just were looking at a map. It's about 5 blocks west of the site, but it is on the corner of Salter and Logan. Joining us to talk through this, Bernadette Smith is Manitoba's Minister of Housing, Addictions and Homelessness and is in studio live. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Marcy.
So why that location?
Well, people are using in and around that area, and Winnipeg Fire Police and paramedics have, responded to the majority of calls in that area. We know that we had 570 deaths last year. A good portion of those were out and around that area, but we also know that not only people are dying in the streets and overdosing in the streets, we know that people are overdosing in their homes, and we know that people need access to supports. And this is exactly what this site is going to accomplish. It's going to give people a place to consume, but a place to access resources, primary health care, mental health supports, a place to get access to housing. And someone with compassionate, caring support that is going to build relationships and help people realize that they have potential, that they can get onto a path of recovery, get their lives back on track, get their kids back if that's what led them to where they're at, deal with the trauma that's led them to why they're dealing with what they're dealing with, and really help them aspire to be the best person that they want to be.
Finding the location's been a challenge. Obviously, you had a location in mind, heard from community, chose this location instead. Now, again, we're hearing a business owner here saying that she has concerns. How do you speak to her concerns about the school nearby, and also about her feeling that Siloam is right around the corner, and how does this fit into the population that's already there?
Yeah, for sure. And it's a proposed location, right? And we have to follow federal regulations, and you have to have a site with an address, and that's exactly what happened with Disraeli. So we have consultations, we listen to the community and their concerns, and we certainly heard the concerns of the community at Disraeli. So away from schools, away from daycares, we put in a 250-meter policy. So it's certainly outside that radius. We want to make sure that we were listening to that. We looked at other jurisdictions. So when I was in opposition, I went to many other provinces, looked at what they were doing, and safety and security is absolutely number one concern for us. So we
how
are
do you
listening.
address it? What do you do?
We are working with the police. We are working with Downtown Community Partnership. We are looking at working with Aboriginal Health and Wellness. They will have community wellness ambassadors to make sure that people are coming in. And then certainly enforcement is number one. We do not want people using in and around. We want to make sure people are coming inside, accessing those services. And right now, people are using openly everywhere, in parks. You're driving, you see people, hunched over. You see people using openly.
So when you hear Kelly Miranda talk about being concerned that population will be at greater risk, your perspective is that's not necessarily the case. That population will be, tempted somehow to use more because there's an indoor facility?
Our perspective is that we're going to lead people to the services and supports that they need to get them onto a path of recovery and get them onto the life that they want to live. Nobody chooses to be addicted.
Have you had consultations yet with people in that area?
We have not. We've sent out invitations. We've certainly heard from people that were concerned that they didn't get an invitation, so we reached out to them, made sure that they got invitations. And we want to hear from Manitobans. Certainly this was a mandate that we heard from Manitobans. They wanted to see a place and a space where people can use, but most certainly get the resources and supports that they need.
So you have a meeting, I think Siloam Mission December 9th. There's an in-person meeting. There's a virtual meeting on December 11th as well. After those meetings, how much opposition would there need to be for you to consider moving it yet again? Because, after Disraeli, that's what happened. Could this possibly not be where the site will be?
Yeah, we continue to take that feedback, listen to that feedback, and certainly, we look at what the concerns are. And our number one concern, again, is safety, security, but we want to keep Manitobans alive. We come from a harm reduction approach. We come from an enforcement approach. We come from an education approach. And certainly we want to make sure that we are getting those folks to the supports and recovery. And recovery is, something that people haven't had access to for a very long time. We've put over 800 new spots into the system. We're putting another 400. We're building pathways so people can get straight into detox and recovery. We want to ensure that people are getting the supports and services that they so desperately need for so long. It's part of Your Way Home strategy, getting people, connected to housing and wraparound supports and stabilized.
If I may ask you a last question, I'm going to push Josh's news headlines for a second here, because this actually is probably something the news department wants to know. It hasn't even been a week since the new detox center has opened, right? The 72-hour center. How was the first weekend? Can you share with us how many people or anything about how it went?
It's been successful, and, we haven't had any concerns. And basically, this is just an extension of what has been already happening at Main Street Project. I know there were a lot of concerns from the community. And again, this is just, given more authority outside of alcohol for other substances. And it's going very well. It's been successful.
And do we, Minister, have any numbers to how many people went through this week yet, or?
No, we don't share numbers because, it's people's privacy, right? And we want to keep that privacy, their own privacy. So, again, this is about getting people the services and supports that they need so that they can get onto a path of recovery and support them and meet them where they're at. And Manitoba is trending in the right direction. Provinces are looking at us and saying, what are you doing there? How can we do this in our province?
And how are you measuring it being successful then? I'm just curious.
Ensuring that, people are getting the supports that they need.
Is it because you haven't heard issues, though, out of the first week? Is that what's making you say it's been successful?
Yes.
Since it opened?
It's successful in that way. People are accessing those services. Relationships are being built, and we're going to continue to build on that model.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time live today on CBC.
Thank you as well for having me.
So that is Bernadette Smith, Manitoba's Minister of Housing, Addictions and Homelessness.
Something that could happen, but then someone could phone the police and or phone the parking authority and have them come out, and the motive could be malicious. Look, in a way, I think our reaction has been, as a community, has been somewhat exaggerated. This is not the East German Stasi where we all become secret police spying on each other, and it's not Big Brother. The punishment is presumably a minor fine. So I would caution people not to overreact. On the other hand, I'm really pleased that people have a sense of community and that we don't want to be turned against each other. I think people recognize that community solidarity is an important value. We often don't think about it unless we get into trouble, and then we realize living in a community that hangs together and that looks after each other is a really precious social resource for all of us.
If you had to advise the city, what would you advise them at this point? Proceed or drop this idea?
Well, the idea as put forward was related to trivial parking offenses. I would just drop that. The stakes are low. If somebody reports a car that's misparked and the parking authority doesn't have an inspector to come, so somebody got away with it. On the other hand, for serious offenses where people are placing their car or driving in a way that endangers the public, I mean, if you see your neighbor stagger drunk out of the house and get into the car, if someone is speeding through a red light and putting the lives and safety of others at risk, then I think our role as community-minded citizens is to assist the police.
Just last, are there privacy or ethical, I guess it's privacy implications of encouraging people to photograph a stranger's vehicle, or is there an ethical conversation in that aspect of this?
Well, I'm not sure there's much of a privacy concern. After all, if your vehicle's on the street, anyone can photograph it, anyone can see it. You don't really have an expectation of privacy when you're outdoors, when your car is outdoors. So no, I don't think privacy is a major consideration, except the one that was flagged by you a moment ago and by some of the callers, and that is you could have very angry confrontations between people if the person who took the photo, if their identity is revealed either because they're spotted or because they have to go to court to testify. That could be an invasion of privacy that could be potentially serious.
Thank you for this, Arthur. Appreciate it.
Really nice chatting with you, Marcy. Have a good day.
You too. Well, we'll see what the city's going to do with the information in the report this week. You can weigh in on the listener line, 788-3205. Arthur Schaefer's been with us, director of the Center for Professional and Applied Ethics at the University of Manitoba, talking about the risks of snitching on parking violators.